Alright, scholars, now we're going to talk about using the Pythagorean identity to solve problems. Now usually these problems will give you a value of sine theta or cosine theta, and they'll ask you to solve for the other one. For example, let's say that we know that sine of our angle is 1/2, and we know that this angle is in quadrant 2. Remember the unit circle? This angle is somewhere over here. So sine is positive, cosine is negative. Keep that in mind because we're going to use it later. Alright, so these problems are pretty easy, but you have to be able to work with fractions a little bit. So what we're going to do is, we know that sine of theta equals 1/2. So where we see up here this sine squared of theta, what we're going to do is we're just going to replace the sine theta with 1/2. So this whole thing just turns into 1/2. Now of course we have to square it because sine theta is being squared, plus cosine squared equals 1. Alright, and then we just have to solve this guy for cosine theta. Now you may say to yourself, oh, this is really weird. I don't know how to do algebra with cosine theta. It seems really weird for me to try to solve for cosine theta to get that all by itself in the equation. I'm used to working with an x or a y or something like that. Alright, well if that's you, just take this cosine squared theta and just replace it with x squared. It's totally fine. You're just saying that x is equal to cosine theta, and then you're just going to solve for x. And then at the end of the day, you can go replace x with cosine theta, and you're good to go. Alright, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it big people style. We're going to leave the cosine theta in there. But if that bothers you, just go back and replace it with an x, and you'll be fine. Alright, so here we go. What we need to do is simplify 1/2 squared. So if you remember how to square a fraction, you just square the numerator, which is just 1, and then you square the denominator, which is 2 squared is 4. Alright, then we have plus cosine squared theta equals 1. Alright, so we're going to get cosine squared theta isolated on one side, which means let's subtract 1/4 from both sides. And when we do that, we get cosine theta equals, squared theta equals 1 minus 1/4. Alright, now if you guys are pros at fractions, you can just look at that and say, oh, I got 1, I'm taking away 1/4, that means I've got 3/4 left. Some of you that are a little bit more shaky on fractions, you're going to need to make a common denominator, write 1 as 4/4, and then just subtract. But in either case, you're going to get 3/4 equals cosine squared theta. Alright, now, we don't want cosine squared theta, we just want cosine theta. So what we need to do is take the square root of both sides. When we do that, we will undo the square, and we just get plain old cosine theta. Now, how do we take the square root of a fraction? Well, it works the same way as it does with exponents. We just take the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. But the square root of the denominator is just 2. Alright, now, remember when you take the square root of something, technically the answer could come out either positive or negative. So which is it in this case? Well, remember that our angle was in quadrant 2, and in quadrant 2, cosine is actually a negative x value. Remember, this is cosine here. Alright, so we know that we're going to be taking the negative solution there. Alright, so cosine of theta is equal to negative radical 3/2.